In life, win-win scenarios is all we look for, whether it's personal, whether it's business, whether it's financial, it doesn't really matter. What we're looking for in real estate is win-win. And why don't I see more seller financing? I don't know. We're in this very interesting time, the middle of 2024. A lot of deals are being listed, but very few are actually selling. Why is that? It's not because interest rates are high, because frankly, they're not high. 6.5, 6.75 is pretty real, maybe a little bit higher than we've seen in the last 20 or 30 years. But the issue is limited loan dollars. It's very hard to get new loans. And if you do, they're 50% or maybe even less. So you've got to come in with a big down payment. What is the goal of real estate from an investor standpoint? Use other people's money, leverage, coming in with the lowest amount of money possible. The big kicker here, and I'm talking more to owners who want to exit, they see California as a more difficult place to do business, which it is. We talked about rent control event last week. We talked about tenant advocacy groups that are causing a really big pain in the butt for a lot of landlords out there. This is a great time for an owner to exit if they carry paper, if they sell with a seller financing offered. You can't do it with 50%. You're going to have to offer more leverage, 65, 70%, 75%. The beauty in this is you can get pretty much above market on the value. So MSRP is $5 million. You're going to be able to push the value another 5, 10% because you're offering leverage. It's very hard to get leverage in this market. So why is the buyer going to pay more than market if you're offering financing from the seller perspective? They're getting in the game. I talk about this a lot. The biggest problem with San Diego real estate, it's hard to get in the game. The barrier of entry is very high. Leverage, a buyer wants leverage. I remembered a gentleman in 2006-07 who was overpaying for real estate that had seller financing. And I said, you know what? This guy's onto something, because he was getting in the game with 15, 20, 25% down payment. He was paying ridiculous prices. Well, in the big picture, 15 years later, this guy's crushed it. I know him personally. The same is the case now. Real estate in San Diego is not going to decrease in value. Get in the game. That's a benefit to the buyer. There's no appraisal. There's no conventional underwriting. You don't have to get approved by Chase Bank or anything else. You've got a private party to deal with. It's a better experience. You can negotiate extensions potentially in the future. You can negotiate the interest rate. There's all kinds of benefits of doing business with a mom and pop or someone you can call than a big corporation. We all know that. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. I have a blast doing these weekly videos. I hope they add value to you holistically in the real estate business and in life. I know everybody says this, but if you want to support me, please click on the like button below, subscribe to the channel. And if you want to talk about anything personally with your real estate goals or interests, chris@mangotreerealestate.com, or you can go to my website, which is pretty slick, mangotreerealestate.com. Now back to the video. From the seller perspective, and I really want to talk to owners out there who see themselves at kind of the end of their investment rope. They've done really well. They're tired of management. They don't want to go into something they don't understand as far as a triple net investment or another area, you know, like Austin, Texas. I just talked to somebody that's buying apartments in Austin, Texas. Went out there, I couldn't believe how hot it was and how muggy it was. But nonetheless, this is an option. You're not paying capital gain taxes as well on the loan if you sell with seller financing. So you get a huge price, you get out of management, you mitigate property taxes like I just talked about. You're only going to pay capital gain taxes on the down payment. The amount of the first trust deed is essentially exempt until the buyer pays you off way down the road. You get cash flow. Say you're doing 6% on a $2 million note. That's $120K, $10,000 a month, just as a kind of a rough example. You can mitigate inflation. We've got, inflationary market that we've seen over the last 3-4 years, especially post-COVID. You can mitigate the rate by doing a stair step. So do 6% for a year, then it goes to 6.5, then it goes to 7. You can play around from the seller perspective to negotiate something, and that buyer is probably going to play ball with you. Just if you offer them enough loan to value, they're going to probably go along and be flexible with the rates and stuff that you have to offer. I can almost guarantee you that. The buyer's looking for loan to value, the most amount of loan dollars. If you give them that, you can really structure something interesting. Put a prepayment penalty in place. You know, you're going to offer this buyer financing, and you're going to essentially be the bank, but they can't pay you off for 3, 5, 7, 10 years. Put something really strict in there as far as a prepayment penalty. Lastly, from a seller perspective, it's peace of mind. You're not owning apartments in some tertiary second market that you don't understand completely. You're not buying a triple net in the middle of nowhere that you don't know if they're going to pay you in 5 years or what's going to happen with the lease. You're not cashing out and sitting on a bunch of cash, which is really, really uncertain on what to do with money right now. From a personal perspective, I talked to a lot of wise people. It's a little bit interesting out there. There's a lot of uncertainty, and you give me 20 million bucks right now, I don't really know where to put it. I mean, you've got the apartments in San Diego, but other than that, where do you put capital? I don't know. There's a lot of macro issues out there in the country and the world. So this is peace of mind. You have the collateral as you have the property as the collateral. If the buyer doesn't pay you, you basically foreclose. You take the property back. So I wanted to talk about seller financing today because I don't see it as much, and I want owners to be aware that if they want to sell property and get that big number or above that big number, offer financing for 1, 2, probably 3 to 7 years, I think is the sweet spot, or 2 to 7 years. If you offer that with a loan to value that's 65, 75%, you're going to get a big number, and you're going to have these other benefits. I want you to reach out to me if you do want to run past a scenario with no pressure. What's my property worth if I was to carry a 60%, 65, 70% loan? What's my cash flow going to look like? What are my taxes going to look like? Let me know. Chris@mangotreerealestate.com. You can go to the website, mangotreerealestate.com, or you can call my cell phone as well, which is on the website. And I will run scenarios for you with zero pressure. If you want to do it, if you want to move forward, if you don't, it's fine. That's the way I work. I'm very real and I don't pressure anybody. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next week.